The frozen wastelands of ELTAR-5 stretched endlessly, a world once teeming with life now buried beneath layers of ice. The exodus was near. Humanity had clung to existence for centuries, but the frost was unrelenting. Cities that had once been marvels of technology now lay abandoned, their structures creaking under the weight of permafrost. Dr. Liora Kade stood atop the last functioning research station, her breath forming icy clouds in the dim artificial light. She adjusted the thermal scanner strapped to her wrist, its blue interface flickering erratically. Power reserves were dwindling. The planet's core, once a source of geothermal energy, was dying. Without it, ELTAR-5 was doomed. Inside the station, Captain Dane Voss paced before a holographic display. The Exodus fleet hovered in the stratosphere, waiting for the last survivors to board. But they needed the codes to launch the final transport. Those codes were locked within the Frost Vault, buried deep within the ruins of Obsidian City. A city now overrun by sentient ice, Shardborn, as they were called. Once human, they had succumbed to the frost, their bodies transformed into crystalline horrors. Liora clenched her fists. She had spent years studying the frost's effect on biological matter, and now it had turned their own people into monsters. There was no time for regrets. The Exodus ships could only hold so many. If they failed to retrieve the launch codes, thousands would be left behind. Dane turned to her. We move at first light. If we wait any longer, the storm will bury the vault. They gathered what little they had, plasma rifles, thermal cutters, and a prototype disruptor that Liora had developed to slow the Shardborn. The journey was perilous. ELTAR-5's icy surface was a death trap, with fissures opening unpredictably, swallowing entire structures whole. As they ventured into Obsidian City, the silence was haunting. Frozen statues lined the streets, remnants of those who had been caught in the frost's embrace. A distant screech echoed through the ruins. The Shardborn had sensed them. Dane raised his rifle. Stay close. Liora activated the disruptor, its pulsating field casting an eerie blue glow. The first Shardborn emerged, their bodies shimmering in the pale light. Their eyes, if they could be called that, were hollow, their mouths twisted in silent agony. They moved with unnatural speed, jagged limbs slicing through the air as they charged. The disruptor fired. A wave of energy surged through the air, and the creatures faltered, their crystalline forms fracturing. Dane and his team unleashed a barrage of plasma rounds, the ice-covered streets igniting with bursts of energy. But the Shardborn kept coming. Liora pulled a secondary charge from her belt. If they didn't reach the vault soon, they would be overwhelmed. We have to move. They pushed forward, navigating the labyrinth of frozen structures. Finally, they reached the entrance of the Frost Vault, a massive structure of obsidian metal, its doors sealed shut by ancient security locks. Liora's hands trembled as she connected her scanner to the interface. The system was old, its AI barely responsive. Dane and the others held the line, fending off wave after wave of Shardborn. The disruptor's charge was nearly depleted. A deafening roar filled the air as a massive form emerged, a Shardborn titan, its body a towering mass of ice and bone. It slammed a jagged limb into the ground, sending a shockwave through the ruins. Liora cursed. Come on, come on. The vault's interface flickered, then beeped in recognition. The doors groaned as they slid open. Inside, now, Dane was the last to enter, narrowly dodging the titan's crushing blow. The doors sealed behind them. Inside, the temperature was surprisingly warm. The vault had maintained its own power source, untouched by the frost. Rows of data consoles stretched into the darkness, their screens flickering with ancient readouts. Liora wasted no time. She located the terminal containing the launch codes and began the extraction process. A deep rumbling vibrated through the walls. The Titan was outside, attempting to break in. Hurry up, Dane urged. The console beeped as the transfer completed. Liora pulled the data chip and secured it. Got it. No sooner had she spoken than the walls shuddered violently. Cracks spiderwebbed across the structure. The vault wasn't going to hold. They sprinted back to the entrance. The Titan's massive frame loomed outside, its crystalline form glowing with an eerie luminescence. It roared, its jagged maw opening as it prepared to unleash a deadly frost blast. Dane activated the last of their explosives. We blow the supports and bury it. Liora hesitated. The vault held knowledge, history. But there was no choice. The charges detonated. The structure collapsed, sending a cascade of ice and debris crashing down. The Titan let out one final, guttural screech before it was buried beneath tons of rubble. Breathing heavily, they emerged into the frigid night. The storm was closing in. Their transport beacon flickered in the distance, a final lifeline to the Exodus fleet. As they boarded, Liora cast one last look at ELTAR-5. The planet was lost, but humanity would endure. The frost would not claim them all.